Hello and welcome to Byju's IAS. Let's get started and look into the first article. The first article says government notifies new rules to clear retro tax mess. The article here is speaking about retrospective taxation. There were two companies in picture. One happens to be Vodafone, the other happens to be Kane. Both these companies feel that retrospective taxation imposed by Government of India was not in principles as originally established with respect to the bilateral investment treaty. So what do? They go to the International Arbitration Tribunal and seek for justice. The International Tribunal looks into it, looks at the arguments of both the parties, the companies here as well as the Government of India, and ultimately goes in favor of both these parties. It is where India realizes that retrospective taxation should be amended, and now what has it done? It has come up with new rules. What is this Vodafone case all about? What was the incident all about? Why did India impose the retrospective taxation? Has been explained in one of our videos, so kindly look into it. To help you understand in brief, we have Vodafone as a company. The government of India had imposed retrospective taxation. So Vodafone feels that this is in violation of the bilateral investment treaty between India and Netherlands. So what does it do? It goes against India and files an arbitration in the International Tribunal at Hague. So they look into this particular issue and ultimately say that India has breached the terms of agreement and such taxes should not be imposed by India. This is what happens with respect to Vodafone. Then another case also happens with respect to Kane as well. What exactly happened? Similarly, retrospective taxation was imposed by India on Kane as well. So this goes to the International Tribunal and the court ruled in favor of Kane and ordered the Indian government to pay damages plus cost and interest as well. All this because India had imposed the retrospective taxation. Now, in order to overcome this, in order to make sure that India does have an atmosphere of ease of doing business and have an investor friendly environment, what India has done is come up with rules in reference to the retrospective taxation. What has India said? India has said that retrospective taxation will be immediately suspended, and in case they have taken money from these companies in the form of taxes, in the form of fines, such money will be paid back to the companies. So what will the government do? The government in this particular case has said Kane as well as Vodafone that if we have taken any money in the form of retrospective taxation, the same will be given back to the company. However, they have to withdraw all the existing cases against the government of India, whether it is in the international tribunal or it is within the country boundaries as well, where different types of cases at the High Court and also in the Supreme Court will also have to be suspended, says the government of India. And at the same time, they also have to waive all the rights to claim costs or attach Indian assets. What exactly happened? As we discussed, there was Kane which goes to the international tribunal. So the international tribunal asks government of India to pay the damages as well as the cost. The government of India was looking at multiple options. While all of this was happening, there were few Indian assets located in United Kingdom and in multiple countries. So what did Kane do? Because it was anticipating that the government of India may not pay the money. So what does it do? It wanted to attach and take away Indian assets as well. So what is the government of India saying? That if there are Indian assets, we will pay you back the money, but you should not attach the Indian assets, says the government of India with respect to the new rules with respect to retrospective taxation. And it also says that Indian government should be indemnified on all costs and liabilities. So in case there is any future cases, there are shareholders of these two companies, in case they file a case against the government of India, the government of India will not pay any money to the shareholders. Why? Because this will be a final settlement. The retrospective taxation will be removed and the money will be paid back to the company. So in case there is any future liability, the government of India is not responsible for it, but these charges will have to be borne by the company, says the government of India. So what will happen in this particular case? all the cases that is existing between government of India and these companies will be completely done away with. The legal disputes will be completely done away with. The government of India will pay the money back to Kane as well as the Vodafone, and at the same time they have to ensure that they withdraw all the cases against the government of India. So do remember, with this particular rule, when it comes into implementation, what we will have is multiple disputes coming to an end. Since the litigation and the arbitration will come to an end, this will also showcase that India will be protective. India will take care of the businesses in the near future. So this will create an investor friendly atmosphere. India will not impose retrospective taxation in the near future, and it also sends a clear message to other countries and companies that India is welcoming businesses as well as individuals. And at the same time, while all of this is happening, India has to make sure that it does not rediscover any of the legislative disadvantages in the near future. So the retrospective taxation was a law passed by the parliament. So in the near future, such laws with respect to retrospective taxation or similar rules and regulations should not be initiated by the government of India. So when it comes to the tax policies, it has to be stable. It also has to ensure that it does not frequently change these tax policies, is what is that we have to understand with respect to this article. Why? Because if there is no stability, if there are frequent changes of the tax policy rules and regulations, this will not create an investor friendly atmosphere, and they may also feel that there will be a lot of changes that will be introduced, and individuals, companies and countries may not engage with India and its investments. Added to this, we also have to loop in the state governments as well. Why? Because the state governments also have the responsibility as well. So the government, that is the union government, will also have to take the state governments into picture, and there are different governments that come every 5 years. There is one political party which might have given subsidies, it might have also given incentives as well. So such provision should also be carried by the future political party. So irrespective of who forms the political party and the government, such a party should not change the policies which could become an hurdle for all these companies. So going forward, India will have to bury the ghosts of the past and strive towards a new India becoming an important investment destination of the world, is what is this article all about. Now let's look into the next article. This article says stumbling blocks to FTA can be surpassed. This article here is speaking about the free trade agreement between India and Australia. Before we understand what is this article all about, let's have a brief idea with respect to background. When we speak about the background, we have to understand the India and Australia relationship from when India got its independence. India got its independence and we had what is called as the non-alignment principle. This non-alignment principle that India had made Australia far away from India ideologically. How? During the Cold War period, we had two principles or two ideologies. One supported by United States of America. We also had United Kingdom on one side. Then you also had Soviet Union back then, which also had a communist ideology. So what do we have? We have Australia, which was supporting United States of America and United Kingdom. But what did India have? India had a non-alignment principle. So the first major hurdle for enhancing the relationship between India and Australia was the non-aligned movement. India did not take an ideological shift towards United States of America, United Kingdom, which meant India and Australia were not in good terms during the initial phase up until the Cold War. After that, India wanted to have a strategic advantage. It also had its own security threats as well. So what does India do? India takes up the nuclear activity. Back in the year 1998 and much prior to that as well, India went completely nuclear. Why? Because we had one security threat on the northwestern border and one on the northeastern border. One in the form of Pakistan, the other in the form of China. So India had to take care of itself. India had to take care of the security of itself. India had to maintain the sovereignty of the country because of the security threat that was emanating from both the neighboring countries. India had to go nuclear. The minute India went nuclear, Australia did not recognize it. In fact, the relationship between India and Australia further had hurdles after India went nuclear. The third was after the liberalization. After the liberalization, there were many countries, in fact, the World Bank did also accept that India has to bring reforms as well. Many companies, many countries started associating with India. But India and Australia did not have much of economic content. There was lack of economic content between both the countries. But finally, in 2011, they wanted to open up to the free trade agreement. So, in spite of the earlier hurdles, in spite of various issues that were existing, in spite of the economic reforms initiated by India, there was lack of economic content, lack of economic association between India and Australia. However, back in the year 2011, talks were starting about the free trade agreement. But this was not a successful one. Why? Because there were multiple impediments between India and Australia. So, what do? They try and understand what are these issues, and ultimately, they wanted to bridge the differences from the year 2011. So, India and Australia did not have a free trade agreement. It started off in 2011. They wanted to take it forward, increase the economic relationship, trade relationship. After 2008, when United States of America provided India with the nuclear supply, Australia did also started providing the supply as well. But the more economic relationship, the trade related relationship was not enhanced. But talks were initiated only during 2011. What does this article say? The talks which was initiated in 2011, where India wanted to expand the horizons of economic activity with Australia, has to be taken up such that both the countries will take advantage because of such free trade agreement. So what is the focus? What is the epicenter of the talks? There are negotiations, and these negotiations and proposals will happen between India and Australia, and the focus will be on the agriculture. So what does the author say? The author in this particular case says that compromises will have to be made with respect to agriculture so that we would be able to boost the exports and imports and also create jobs in the agricultural sector. Then we also have Australia, which produces one of the wool called as the merino wool. Kindly remember, merino wool is one of a natural fiber. This happens to be one of the costliest wools as well. It happens to be one of the wools which is very good as well. So this merino wool will be exported from Australia. And what is Australia seeking? That when this is exported from Australia to India, India can convert this into apparels and also export it back to multiple countries. So what we would have is an advantage, says Australia. Finally, there are technology and services support that can also be existing. This has to be further enhanced so that whatever output that we generate will further bolster the relationship, says this article. However, if all of this will have to fall in place, there are few impediments, hurdles between India and Australia. What are these hurdles? One, there has to be a free trade agreement. So for the free trade agreement to come into existence, what should happen? There are few tariff barriers, there are few non-tariff barriers as well. These will have to be completely eliminated, or differences will have to be sorted. What are these tariff barriers? This is in the form of taxation. So if the government of India is getting some of the products from Australia, such will have low taxation or no taxation. So the tariff barriers will have to be completely eliminated, and at the same time, the non-tariff barriers like the sanitary and the phytosanitary matters, the standards prescribed by the companies, the technical standards prescribed for the auto sector will also have to be taken into picture. If we speak about the tariff barriers, the customs will also have to be taken into picture, where the red tape in the past has entered into picture and has ensured that these products do not easily flow into the Indian market. So such issues of tariff and non-tariff barriers, which includes the customs, phytosanitary and technical standards, will all have to be eliminated as well. So we have to identify the strategic and economic benefits between India and Australia, and we'll have to establish the free trade agreement. So the existing institutional framework, infrastructure, mechanisms in the bilateral trade, investment and economic situations will all have to be taken into picture, considered by both India and Australia to enhance the close cooperation and recommend those measures which can optimize the cooperation between India and Australia. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says 5 crore houses given water connections. The article here is speaking about Jal Jeevan Mission. What is this Jal Jeevan Mission? Many in India do not have access to drinking water. This had become a major obstacle for the government, a serious deterrent in the country's efforts to combat the poverty. Why? That is because if safe drinking water is not provided to the people, they had to walk long distances. There is a lot of labor involved in it, and it also means if safe drinking water is not provided, it is violating the right to health as well, and ultimately people had to spend too much amount of money to fetch water, quench their thirst, and at the same time they also had health related issues because of not so safe drinking water. As a result, the government realizes that we have to provide safe drinking water to the people in the rural areas. But this cannot be done only by the government. Why? That is because the government is not only the major stakeholder, we also require the support of the civil society. Why? Even if the water is provided by the government, it is also important that we conserve the water as well. This is where people had to be taken into confidence. So the government of India comes up with one of the initiatives called as the Jal Jeevan Mission. So what is this Jal Jeevan Mission? This is where the government of India, along with the cooperation of the state governments, where multiple schemes of the state governments and central government will all be gelled, clubbed together, and ultimately piped water supply will be provided to the households. It is not only about providing pipe water supply, but conservation efforts will also have to be taken by the civil society. So what is the objective of this particular program? Every rural household will be getting the drinking water in adequate quantity of prescribed quality on regular and long term basis at affordable service delivery charges, leading to improvement in living standards of the rural communities. So basically it is not only creating a local infrastructure, but it is asking the people to make it a sustainable approach and also conserve water. How? By making use of rainwater harvesting, groundwater recharge, management of household wastewater, so that this can also be reused in the agriculture. So it is not only about providing the pipe drinking water, but it is also about sustainable usage and conservation as well. In order to ensure that this also has a technological advantage to it, the government of India comes up with what is called as the JJM mobile application. So what is this JJM mobile application? This will give the details of the water infrastructure. Where are the connections? How many people are connected? Is it Aadhaar verified? Who are the beneficiaries? What is the water quality? Is there any contamination in the water? All of this will be fed in the JJM mobile application. So this information about the water infrastructure, about the pipeline, who the beneficiaries is, all of this information will be available on a public forum alongside with the specific data for each village, district and state level bodies concerning with respect to the water. So the technology was also made part of the Jal Jeevan mission as well. So what is the significance of this particular project? One, they would be provided with drinking water. That's the most important factor. Then infrastructure will be developed and jobs will also be given. Why? Because if people are engaged in providing infrastructure, they will also be provided with jobs as well. And at the same time, this job creation will also increase other economic activities as as well, and this will further give business opportunities in the rural areas, and as a result the overall sector of agriculture over a period of time will also be developed. Added to this, the health of the people will also be taken into picture. So the government of India realizes multiple advantages because of the Jal Jeevan mission. However, there are challenges to this particular program. What are these challenges? The first major challenge is with respect to the finances. What are the finances? If we have to execute this particular project where there is an integration of the central government and the state sector scheme, who will be putting in the money? Who will be contributing more finances? What is the role of the state governments? So who will be investing the money? This is one such confusion, and this will also require huge funds as well. So the dilemma and confusion is about the friction that could happen, may happen between the center and the state governments when it comes to the execution of the project, and also about availability of huge funds. The government of India has also said that there is water quantity and quality which will be given to the people, but in number of states, in number of villages, there are places where the water is contaminated as well. There is fluoride in the content. This has also led to dental enamel damage as well as skeletal deformities as well. And finally, what is the quantity of water? Is it going to be met all the time? Is another question being asked as part of Jal Jeevan mission. However, when we look into the present context, the article goes on to say that about 5 crore households have been provided with water connections since the launch of Jal Jeevan mission back in the year 2019. So this article currently says that about 5 crore households have been given the Jal Jeevan mission's pipe drinking water, says this article. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says how beneficial is the new pill to patients with COVID-19. The article here is speaking about one of the COVID-19 drugs called as Molnupiravir. This happens to be a drug which was produced by one of the pharmaceutical companies called as Merck and Ridgeback Biotherapeutics. This is a drug which is introduced by this particular company. When administered to the patients, there are about 50% of the chances where it has prevented hospitalization in COVID-19 patients with mild or moderate diseases. So what is this? This happens to be an antiviral drug. As of now, we have multiple vaccines that are being administered to the people. We have Moderna, we have Pfizer in India, we have Covishield, we have Covaxin. So what is happening in the present situation? There is a drug that is being developed, and this drug, if it is administered to patients having COVID-19, there are 50% chances that these people were not hospitalized even in spite of COVID-19 symptoms. So this article currently goes on to say that in spite of this antiviral drug, there are some challenges to this particular drug. What are those? One, the phase 3 trials that is conducted, its data is still not made public, so they do not have enough data to actually say that it has been a successful one. Second, there is something called as the medical journals. These medical journals are generally peer reviewed, so you have the data and statistics which is given in the medical journals. The medical journal will have to be scientifically read. The process will have to be investigated by other peer groups as well. That is once again pending in the present situation. And the data which is being given to the United States Food and Drug Administration is still held for a review. So as a result, we have to wait and watch for all of it. So once it is completely reviewed, once there is peer review investigation that is completed, and after successful implementation, that is when we can trust this drug, says this article. How does this work? It is designed to introduce errors in the genetic code of the virus, and the biggest advantage of this drug happens to be that it can be administered as pills as part of the 5-day regimen. It is this that we have to understand. However, we will have more updates in the near future. We will take this article in an elaborate way. Now let's look into the next article. This article says, why is the government against caste census? We have discussed about this article in the past 1 week, and this article, what are the concerns of digital health mission, has also been explained in the past 1 week. So we would not be taking both of these articles. Now let's look into the mains practice questions. Decision to end retrospective taxation will help the Center Project India as an investor friendly destination. Comment. In the light of negotiations on the proposed free trade agreement talks between India and Australia, liberalizing investment regimes would result in valuable economic benefits for both the countries discussed. So please write all your answers on the comment section. Peer review. Do give positive feedback to your friends' answers. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.